Hello and welcome to VIDEODRONE, a podcast about movies, TV shows, the Super Bowl, and other things that we have consumed recently. My name's Ben Vanel. I'm joined by my co-host Tommy Dasilo. Tommy,
Hello.
how are you going?
I'm going good, thanks. As you mentioned, this is a show about the Super Bowl. We talk about the Super Bowl every week, and This is a rare week where it's actually relevant. There's actually stuff for us to talk about. Next week's going to be brutal because we're back to 51 weeks of speculating about what's going to happen next year.
Well, we've had our correspondent over in the States, over in, where was it, New Orleans? New Orleans, for 51 weeks of the year. Jen Fricker, how is it over there?
The atmosphere is huge. Everyone's talking about the Super Bowl. And, you know, I've told them my work here is to report on the Super Bowl 52 weeks of the year.
Yep.
Many Americans are saying that is crazy.
You should get more access for you having planted yourself there for an entire year to the detriment of the rest of your life. You should get access all areas, but
and I don't have an understanding of the NFL, but I do have an understanding of Super Bowl.
Yes.
Because
the sights, the sounds, and the smells of wonderful Super Bowl.
I hate to be one of those people who I heard a great joke about this, but do you guys ever watch What We Do in the Shadows, the TV series?
Yeah.
And they have a superb owl.
Oh, yes.
Party. So cute.
Yes.
That's cute.
That whimsical type of humor
yeah,
that
that's
we
twee.
love
That's
so
twee.
much.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you guys watch it? I actually watched the halftime performance, I think live for probably the first time ever. I just kind of happened to be sitting at the desk and was like, oh yeah, I'll just chuck the stream on and keep checking that tab and just watch that when it's on. I've only ever caught up, but it was exciting. It's exciting to be there in the moment.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's not a bad time for a sporting event, honestly. 10:30 on the for AM. So good. Don't have to stay up, but also I'm eating wings in the morning. Incredible.
Yeah. Totally. And the halftime performance kind of coinciding with the lunch break. It was like just after midday here. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect stuff.
People say a lot of bad things about America, but I think they nailed that one.
Yeah, they really have. We were talking about this before the show in terms of just it's such an easy comparison, but the spectacle of the Super Bowl halftime performance, drawing people in regardless of whether or not they're interested in the sport, compared to the AFL pre-show entertainment, which is done as kind of quickly and out of the way as possible. Yeah, sort of in a corner of of the ground, in the daylight. Very hard to have any kind of conceptual approach or theatrics or pyrotechnics.
They shoot high-speed sport with. So you're seeing the most blown out fucking images of pop stars in the day. Pop stars shouldn't exist in the daylight. No. We're not meant to see them in the daylight.
Well, the NRL final is that nighttime?
That is nighttime, yeah.
And what kind of talent are we getting for the league?
Well, it's more often than not, it's the same, because last year, it was Kiss did both. Kiss did the AFL Grand Final during the day here, and then the next night, I think, they were doing the NRL one, and it was at night. So, of course, all the fireworks and all the pyrotechnics, it really did make ours look like a rehearsal. It was like, oh, yeah, this is what this is meant to look like.
Yeah, we were the sound check.
Yeah, I think they do double up pretty frequently, right?
We got Kid Leroy.
Oh, okay.
I do remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was last year. I think
year.
Chris
Yeah.
was before,
Was Macklemore one year and he was banned from doing the gay song?
Yes,
that's right. Israel Folau and his mates were like, "Don't you even think about it?
Don't you dare tell us about how you thought you were gay when you were 10.
Don't tell us that you think they deserve our love.
That's not what today's for. We don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
We don't disagree with it. It's just not what today's for.
This day of men hugging each other real tightly.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
Little shorts.
This is about celebrating men, okay?
Yes.
It's not about celebrating men, loving men.
No. I watched the first half of the bowl yesterday, but it was over within the first half. It was just like, because Pat Mahomes is, he was like the player of the year a bunch of years in a row. He is a great quarterback, but like he was just fucking up. He was getting sacked, and the Philadelphia Eagles just ran rampant, who like are the most toxic fan base in like world sport, maybe.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that's good. That's good for them. They just fucking ran rampant across the city.
Yeah, I did enjoy seeing all the memes of like Philadelphia Eagles fans, like one person going into, because they have the tailgating before the and someone walking into the tailgate with a full spit pig on hot charcoals in a shopping trolley that they were walking into the.
Yeah.
I'm like, that rules. Like,
Yeah.
that's the like roughest weird. This is how, again, people say bad things about America. In what other first world country do you have people rolling around with hot charcoals and a spit roast pig?
Yeah.
Just for a fucking football game. Incredible.
It is sick that you get to have a little party out in the car park.
Yeah.
For the before and duration of the game, if you so choose.
Sanctioned
That's pretty
piss
mad.
ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's community.
That is community.
And we're missing that here.
Yeah.
We're all too alienated.
It's all screens these days, you guys.
But yeah, did you guys like the halftime show? I mean, there's not like a ton. It's been, obviously covered extensively from 1 second after finishing, but I thought it was great.
Loved it. I mean, we were kind of talking about this before we jumped on, but I love that with halftime shows in America, and I would say award ceremonies increasingly, it's so different to Australian TV, where like Australian TV, especially live TV, they have a real sense of like, we've got to give the idea that you're in the room with like the performers, and so you're seeing like more audience reactions and things like that. Whereas the way they shoot these things in America is like, oh, we are shooting for camera now. Like they've got set pieces and stuff like that. That probably, if you're sitting in the stadium, means you're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
But the way it comes off on screen, like there's no way if you're sitting in the stadium, that's Serena Williams doing a crip walk, right?
No way. No way.
Totally.
No way. But that
even if you were like up, even if you had like the best seats for the game, like right up the front, I think from that distance you would still struggle to
that's a
accurately
dancer.
be like, oh, that's definitely Serena Williams.
Yeah. And so I feel like that's like something that I really enjoy about watching these big spectacles. Same with the Grammys the other week, like watching all the live music performances is like, it's shot for camera now. Like it's
this
not
one
shot for the
especially
room.
too, like so much of Kendrick himself, like his choreography was him delivering all of his lines like into the camera and like moving walking around and the camera like walking around with him, probably more so than a lot of them, I guess, by nature of like even something like from memory, the Rihanna show, a lot of it was her down the barrel, but then there were a lot of wider shots to show the like wider choreography and the spectacle of it. This was a lot more kind of condensed of just like one guy
straight down the barrel.
One guy straight down the barrel.
Yeah. I will say one of my favorite Super Bowl halftimes was Lady Gaga diving off the top of the stadium, like into the stadium.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I really loved how this was like a obviously not being like pop music, it's like it's harder to impress on that scale. You can't really do the same sort of like big set pieces like the Lady Gaga thing, for example, and that like his style of music, like it is a lot more sort of, I guess, like, I don't know, what would you say? Like, focused. Like I kind of went into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be huge. And then it starts and it's like, well, this couldn't be that, he can't be.
He's not
up on
doing
a
like
platform
academic
and all that
fucking
kind of shit.
barnstormers. It's like thoughtful, intelligent.
Yeah,
rap
him
music.
doing like freestyles on the Super like you would like the kind of the recipe for Super Bowl is like here's like a 12-minute medley of all the big hits. Whereas like he's doing new material at the Super Bowl, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's doing this like combination of like, it's bizarre that now like his biggest song is something that was chucked together as part of a beef. And then he's doing a lot of stuff from an album that's come out not that long ago, like definitely since he got announced and booked for the show, that's got some big songs on it. And you think about like, his big, like he already was a huge artist before those two things happening, but that material like kind of barely factored into the show.
Yeah.
Like so much of what he was doing, which are these pretty huge songs, are all from within the last like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Like,
I
that's
think
crazy.
the oldest song he did maybe was
Probably Humble, right?
Yeah, or like the Scissor track because it's off the Black Panther
Oh
album.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
So that would have been 2018. But that's crazy. Like, that's not that long ago.
It's kind of perfect, though, for, like, where we're at. It's like, yeah, culture happens within a tiny frame, you know? It's like something becomes, like, quote-unquote irrelevant so quickly, and it's like, yeah, all of this shit is the stuff that everyone between, 14 and 40 is scrolling constantly and thinking about. And, like, the fact that, Drake's, like, left the country out of essentially shame, it's all so perfect.
Oh, man, I did see a TikTok and someone was, like, filming Drake's crew watching the Super Bowl at Crown Casino in Melbourne. So good.
Which I was wondering, was that really them, or is that like a fake? Like, I find it kind of hard to believe that they would be watching it in public, like, knowing all that seems like a bit of a stretch, but
I don't know.
Nomming on their Nando's.
Nomming on their Nando's at $2,600 worth of Nando's. Yeah. I thought I really enjoyed it. It was a hell of a show. It was funny to watch and be thinking like, everything in the news and the culture is like so brutal. This is just it's nice to just kind of watch this like wholesome, just like good performance. And then I was like, I mean, the centerpiece of this performance is still a song that was born out of a hateful exchange between two people where one of them's accused of being a wife beater and the other's accused of being a pedophile. Like, it's really small victories here in terms of wholesome entertainment.
Good. It's so good.
It's nice,
Yeah, it's nice. Something to sing along with.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
The entire stadium getting
Why is
around
it
that
a week as well? Like Grammys and Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just to oh man.
Drake being in Australia on tour at the moment, as both of those things went down, that has to be deliberate, right? That has to be
no doubt. No doubt. But then also Drake on stage, I don't know if you saw the photos of him wearing a hoodie with bullet holes through it and it's smoking. It's like, brother, there's you. I get you trying to own it. I get you got to keep making your money. But this is so lame.
He put up on Instagram like that night before the show, his person that, I don't know, does his wardrobe, whatever, production designer, kind of making it. And this is like an hour or two before the show. I was like, it really reeked of like a last minute, hey, do this will be funny. And then this poor woman having to fucking head out to Spotlight in the middle of Perth and
calling people being like, do you have dry eyes?
Yeah.
No, I know it's 5 o'clock on a Thursday. I know. No, it's for Drake. Yeah,
Drake.
No, the guy the guy the song's about. Yeah. Him.
Yeah. He should have just only done the tour in like Perth and Brisbane. You know what I mean? It's like I reckon over there that's where that's his spiritual home. That's where they like truly love him.
Perth.
Yeah, Perth.
Very Perth. He could be a personality. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was like papped. Wasn't he like schmoozing it up with one of the maths brides at some restaurant? Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, now I think he rocks.
Yeah, that's his like. I saw a thing. I think I said this on the bonus last week, but I saw a thing saying like him being here in Perth and being beloved is like it's the end of Tar.
Yes, it literally is.
This is your punishment.
Yeah,
dating, coming to Perth and dating someone from maths.
Oh man,
fuck! I would almost feel sorry for him if it wasn't for all of that stuff that he's done.
If it wasn't because he's a pedophile, then sure, it'd be really bad for him. But.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, great PR move for him to be seen with an adult woman in public.
True.
Yeah,
he's looking really uncomfortable about it. He's like,
so like, what's your favorite color? She's like, I work in finance.
I wonder what the vibe is. I was trying to do a little bit of a Google just before we started, but all I could find was more stories about him giving away tens of $1,000s to audience
so
members.
Desperate.
What would the vibe have been last night?
Hate me. I gave you $10,000. You can't hate me.
Yeah.
I'm paying you to like me now.
Yeah, I was like, would anyone be like yelling shit out at the shows? You'd think you'd get at least one, even a fan, being like, "Oh, this will be funny. I'll yell out A minor."
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw a bunch of stories of people I know just enjoying his concert. So, like, not everyone. It would be hard to not be aware of it, but I guess not everyone is like you know, that tapped in. It's just like, oh, listen to his songs. And
even if you don't care about the beef, it's like, hey, the hits are the hits. I just want to go see them. The hits.
It's a big stadium show. Also, I guess ultimately, like, are we really to be soldiers in a war between millionaires? Like,
right, 100%.
We don't need to hold. We don't need to have an ideological stance on this.
Yes.
We can just enjoy the beef.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, either you've always thought he's a bit lame and you're not interested for that reason, or you're like, you've always liked his hits and you're like, I don't know, him losing a diss track war is like, by the by, whatever.
I wonder
especially
if people are also like, it's all made up for entertainment.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people do think that it's all,
I mean, same record label, same marketing department, like.
Yeah,
I was
shows.
I was thinking about how, like, in terms of, there was all this stuff about Kendrick teasing a massive surprise, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if he, like, the whole thing of like, well, Drake couldn't possibly do it because he's, you know, here. If you like put on these shows as like a red herring, and then you like PJ your way over there and just like show up, would be incredible. If you were cooking that up, you would be like, now let's just book like a fake show, trap style.
Yep.
On the other side of the world, there's enough time for me to get there and come back or whatever.
This is so very specific to my interest, but I don't know if you're aware of Trixie Mattel, the drag queen.
Mm-hmm.
She did like a cameo on Salt Lake City, and I was listening to her podcast the other week, and she was like, oh, I sent the other Trixie to that because I couldn't make it. So she has like a Trixie in Michigan who like can just do the makeup.
That's
and
sick.
and because it's Real Housewives, none of the women actually know who she is.
Sure.
Or would
That's
know
great.
and no one could tell the difference. And she's like, yeah, so I was like on the show, but I wasn't actually on the show.
Fuck yeah.
sick.
That rules. I met a guy at a music festival once, a guy like who was I don't know what the term is, but like in charge of like transporting all the stuff around. So just a crew guy for the festival. And he was telling me about how he worked on that Daft Punk tour when they came out. And he was like, wasn't even them. Just a guy who's like, you know, reckons he's got the full story.
Yeah.
He's like, no, they had two different sets of guys that are being different, and, you know, they didn't even... And I was like, let's say that's true, that is what they were doing. That would be the most closely guarded secret, that there's no way a guy driving the truck that's got some of the lights in it, there's no way you're letting a guy that far down the chain find that out. That would be like... Maybe there's one person in charge of operations at the top level in Australia that knows about it.
Yeah.
And it does not, and it's like NDA, punishable by execution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if the truck guy knows it, someone else knows it, and it would have been a story already.
Now I know it.
Yeah. Well, why haven't you
told
gone
me
to the
and
Daily
you just
Mail?
met me. I'm no one.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for a appropriate time to pivot into the movie that I want to talk about this week.
Yeah.
And it's not going to come. Because I watched Nickel Boys last night. You guys know about this Nickel Boys movie?
You heard about these Nickel Boys? I have. But tell me, it's the debut from...
His name is Ramel Ross.
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard of his documentary that I think this film's kind of based on, but
yeah. And this is it's also an adaptation of a book, a recent book as well. I kind of assumed it may have been, you know, from like mid-century sort of situation, or even contemporary, because the story is set in the 60s. But it is like a 2019 book called The Nickel Boys. It's. Do you know anything about this, Tommy?
I don't know. I've heard of it, but yeah, I don't know the plot or anything.
The plot of Nickel Boys is we follow Elwood, who is a young, very promising kid. He's grown up in, I think, Tallahassee in the South, segregated America. This is early 1960s, maybe late 50s to early 60s. But he's very promising in terms of his academic stuff, and I think he's being raised by his grandma, and basically he has like a really nice teacher, and circumstances conspire to get him to go to this like legitimate technical college. He's going to get a proper education. He's going to like, you know, raise himself up, and it's it's like this very inspiring story. And then he's hitchhiking on the way to the college. He gets in a car with a guy who turns out has stolen that car. He gets charged as an accomplice, but because he's a minor, he gets sent to the Nickel... Is it Nickel College? Nickel School? Something like that.
This is like the Smurfs. Everything's just called Nickel something.
Yeah.
This movie. Gets in his nickel car.
He pays with nickels.
Yeah. No dimes. And this is like a... what would you call it? Like juvenile detention, basically. It's like a reform school. A reform school for like, kids who have done the wrong thing. And it in itself is also segregated. And the black kids, the black boys, it's just like a boys' school, get treated awfully. They get whipped. They have to do like unpaid labor, which there's a word for. And it's the story
Slavery?
of him. Yes.
Yeah.
He kind of makes friends with this guy named Turner, and it's sort of following their story as they like struggle to survive through this school. But it's also like intercut with like weirdly a lot of footage from this film called The Defiant Ones, which is Sidney Poitier, Tony Curtis. They're like in prison together, so it's like this very clear analogy. A lot of like Martin Luther King Jr. speeches, a lot of sort of like mixed media sort of, references and like very postmodern. And then also some like, it's kind of non-linear as well. So there's a lot going on. It's a bit of a collage. It looks beautiful in terms of like the setting, the lighting, like the way that this like very awful place is shot. It's like a stunningly shot film. But the kind of thing, the hook, is that it's all POV shots.
Amazing.
So it is peep show style.
It's the substance.
It's the stuff. Yeah, it is all. Which was like, I think it's like a really good story, and I think the performances are incredible. The guy who plays Elwood's amazing. The guy who plays Turner, because like that's the thing, you kind of follow Elwood initially, and mostly like you think that is kind of your protagonist. So you don't see a lot of him. You're mostly seeing like his grandma, his teachers, like the dudes running the school, and then this friend that he makes, and the friend that he makes is fantastic, really, really great stuff. And I've seen like, and this is done like incredibly. This is like, 9 out of 10s everywhere. This is nominated for Best Picture. But I had a bit of a problem with that technique, because you only see the character that you're kind of following like 25% of the time. Like,
sure.
And I know like the thinking is, like, we want you to experience this. Like, we want you, the audience member, to see the world through this character's eyes and the horrors, and the struggles and, all of the trauma that this character is experiencing. We want you to experience it. And it's a very upsetting movie because of that. But I don't know, there's something about... I don't know that makes me identify more with a character or a situation than if I was seeing them. And seeing that performance and seeing them reacting.
Even just from a technical standpoint, it sounds like it would be more like rather than being able to be like lost in what's going on, you'd be more thinking about
the technical kind of achievement of it.
It kind of weirdly, I know what you mean, like even just when it's used briefly in a film, it kind of does. You're only really thinking. I find myself really taken out of it because it is such a weird, technical thing to have happen. Like,
I think that was the case for me. And like I said, with like a lot of this like archival footage cut in and stuff from other movies, you're very aware the whole time. Like this is being put together. This is being made by someone. Which is odd, and I know that like lots of other people have not shared the way I've responded to it. Some people have, which I think makes sense. Like you say, it is such a overt technique that it can, draw you out of it and make you aware of it. But I think a lot of people have just been like, yeah, it was amazing. It was incredible. I felt
Immersive.
like I was there. I was immersed, and it hit me all the harder for it. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I need to like watch it again because I won't be so consciously being like, oh, we're looking at this character and we're zooming over here, and it's all handheld, and it's very like, a lot of people have been like motion sick from it, but it's like watching Avatar. It's a real tough one because it's such a good story and the performances are so good. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think when you give it a watch, because it's definitely worth watching. But it's like, oh, this dude's making eye contact with me for fucking 90% of the film. It's odd. It's an odd experience.
I wonder, like, when I hear about this, because I do feel like it is becoming more and more of a technique. Like, I remember when, like back in the olden days, like David Stratton used to be like, I fucking hate handheld camera. It's such a cheap way to like make people feel like, and I feel like we're now in like the next stage of that, which is like the POV. And like, I don't know if you guys watched the featurette on the making of The Substance, but they've got like basically Coralie Fargy, the director, like shot a lot of it and was literally in this kind of gigantic camera set, and she's like injecting things into her own arm and spraying this whole auditorium full of people with blood. And I'm like, it's really interesting that in the last 10 years that kind of visual effect or technique or whatever is become really prominent. And I do wonder if it's like because it's a visual language we now see every day in social media. Like that's how people shoot people is like it's to front facing to camera. And I wonder if that's just become like a shorthand now. It's like, well, the easiest way to make this feel like connecting with other people is if we shoot it like we shoot social media videos. And then also, like I mentioned, Ramel Ross, the director, is a documentary filmmaker. So I was aware of his work, Hale County. Hale County? Hale County? Lay Mama Boots.
Hale CVNCY.
Hale County this evening. Which is a documentary he shot. And I wonder, is it the documentarian in him that makes everything kind of shot from his point of view, right? Because as a documentarian, you're kind of being a witness for the audience, like and so what you're viewing is what is how things like how meaning is created out of these like documentarian stories. And I wonder if like the kind of jump from documentary to feature is like a thing where he's like, well, I'm just going to tell the story with the tools I use, which is this thing, like
like directly, like fly on the wall, like you say, like this is my perspective, like I am I don't know, and
I'm so keen to see it because I've seen like from it, like there's I think it's in the trailer, there's literally a fly on the wall
I'm sorry, you gotta pivot over to the video, guys, if you just listen to the audio of this, because as we're talking about documentary style and just like POV, there's a window washer has just fucking abseiled down the building behind Jen.
I think it's Ramel Ross.
That's someone shooting in someone's windows right now.
Also, just very quickly, I've been meaning to bring this up for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Where Jen records from, the view behind you is like clearly you're quite high up. And then I've visited your office the last time I was in Sydney, and you can't really see from your angle, but there is like a little walkway. There's like a corridor behind you. Because one day you were on here and I was like, oh, that's the view out Jen's window. And then just all of a sudden there was someone just like walking along.
A giant woman.
I was like, oh my God.
What's bloody going on here?
Someone's just scaling the side of this building.
Someone's trying to break in the pod studio.
It truly does look like they're just like walking across the air behind you. But,
Anyway. Sorry, everyone. But yes, I'm so keen to see this movie because I saw a shot in the trailer and it's like a shot between two people. Someone's looking down at their feet and then the little girl kind of appears from like sliding underneath a bus seat in front. And I'm just like, that sounds like, I don't know, it just looks interesting. I feel like, and I know I bring it up every single fucking week I've been on this, but like, I want to see big swings like that rather than the big swings of like Emilia Perez. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
at least it's
sure.
like a visual language that is consistent with itself. Whereas Emilia Perez just seems like 8 different visual languages smushed together that never quite come off.
Yeah.
I'd be curious as well, because it is such a... Critics have called it like a gimmick, and it's such an overt choice that I wonder if it detracts from what it's trying to tell in a way, because it's such an important story. It is like a true story. It's inspired by like a real school where some like horrific things happened, and it is like it's really like it is consistent, but it's such a fucking like, here's everything I've learnt, over the past decade of working and film school and all of this stuff. It's all of these techniques. It's very like kind of show-offy, where it's like, would this have affected me more if it was much more subtle and much more, not traditional, like, but if it was done in a way that was a little bit, less extreme. Because I felt a separation from the events that were happening, which is like totally the opposite of what is intended, and I think is the opposite of like what a lot of people have gotten out of it. But I don't know. I think everyone who watches it will have a very different experience. Some people have called it boring, like I'm sure people could label it pretentious, but it is like, I don't know. It's a shame because it's these like young actors are so fucking good in it. It is. Yeah, it's a very interesting movie.
It's kind of interesting too because it's like, Ramel Ross, that film's nominated for an Oscar, and his first feature documentary, Hale County, was also nominated for an Oscar. Like 2 for 2 features. Nominated for Oscars, basically within the space of 5 years or something.
Yeah.
Crazy. Under the age of 50, that's nuts.
That's bonkers. Yeah. And I've seen him talk about this film on, like roundtables and stuff, and like very intelligent guy. Clearly this is all extremely purposeful and like has an intent that I think has been achieved for a lot of the audience. So like, this is just my personal response, but fascinating movie. I think everyone should check it out. Don't let it be like the one Oscar movie that you're like, I don't know anything about it. Go give it a watch.
Out of all the Best Picture nominations, how are we tallying?
Oh yeah,
like,
bring up the list.
Okay, so here's the list: Emilia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, The Substance, Dune Part 2, Wicked, Anora, The Brutalist. So out of those, I've seen Emilia Perez, Conclave, Substance, Wicked, Anora. So I've only seen 5 out of the 10.
Okay. Let me just get the list up.
Because Tommy, you've seen A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
And Wicked.
I haven't seen Emilia Perez.
Oh yeah.
Lucky.
I haven't seen
Brag.
Haven't seen Nickel Boys and I'm Still Here or The Brutalist.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Brutalist or Wicked or I'm Still Here or A Complete Unknown. And I'm very keen to see I'm Still Here. That feels like that's kind of getting this creep towards a bit more respect, and as Emilia Perez drops away, because it really is dropping away big style.
Oh man, I'm enjoying it so much.
It's rare that these kinds of things happen like midway through the campaign. Like usually it's, remember when what's it called, Green Book won, and people were like, but people weren't really. I think it was just on the list, and people were like, whatever. Like it wasn't. It was only after it won that you saw the conversation about like, that's a bit of a fucking swing and a miss in terms of it winning. But to have people be so just annoyed that it's even nominated. I guess it is the fact that it has started winning a bunch in like the smaller awards.
Well, there's an incredible interview that I read the other day with Jacques Audiard, the director of Emilia Perez, and it's post the Carla Sofia Gascon tweets getting unearthed. It's post her getting pulled off the PR trail. So she did that interview with CNN Spain, where basically she was like, I am a victim of cancel culture. And it's like, you're out here saying like Muslims shouldn't exist. Like I don't know. Like and also like personally going after your co-star. Like she said a bunch of stuff about Selena Gomez, like so brutal. Anyway, so she does this unsanctioned interview. She gets pulled off the campaign trail. Netflix have effectively said, don't come to any of we don't want any more PR from you. We're not paying for your styling. You can come to We're good. You've got your Oscar nomination, so you're allowed to come to the ceremony, but we're not going to pay for you to be there. We're not going to pay for you to style. We're not doing any more publicity with you. And so there's this, I think it's in Variety, maybe. Jacques Audier did this interview with Variety last week, and it's kind of about that. And it's very funny because he's like, I think it's in the American culture, if I'm being honest. He's like, when this film first started showing in European festivals, it was really applauded. And then
great move.
Yeah.
Great move. Yeah.
And he's like, and now, it's hit the American market and we're getting so much backlash. And it's like, do you reckon it's because America's kind of proximate to Mexico at all? Like, do you reckon maybe a large population of Mexican people live in America and perhaps don't like it? Like,
the place where Woody Allen fled to, they really get it.
They love
They're
it
really
there.
on board. They're a little bit more, a little more switched on, a little more cultured.
This gross American sensibility where they somehow they hate racism and it's frankly very basic. Like,
it must be. It's insane to have made this film and, be in the bubble of it. And I'm sure at the end of it, be really happy with the work that you've made. Comes out, starts getting some awards buzz, and you're like, oh, wow, this feels great. This thing that we worked really hard on and we all really believe in.
Everyone at Cannes says it's good. All these French people that are employed in the same industry where I made this. All these French people like this French movie I made. That's crazy. Yeah.
And then within a couple of months, you're still on the trail, and it's like, oh, everyone hates us.
Yeah, people are saying it's also like, okay, I love French directors. I love French directors because they always have the most fucked politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the politics is always like, I think I should be allowed to do this. And everyone who says I can't is wrong. Mm-hmm. And probably American. It's the puritanical culture.
Yeah.
It's not that I shouldn't do this. It's that the puritanical culture is telling me I'm wrong for doing it.
And here's the problem with that, Jen. Sometimes they're right.
Sometimes they are right.
Sometimes they're right.
Yes,
and sometimes
totally.
Americans are wrong, and you should be able to make whatever art you want. But sometimes they're completely fucking wrong, and we have to side with the Americans who have actually, decided, oh, wait, this time we don't like the racism against Muslims and we don't like the racism against Mexican immigrants. It's a complicated world we live in.
There was a great bit in
this
interview too where he's like, a criticism of the film has been that Mexico City at the markets, there are no photocopiers. Well, just it's like this guy has been fucking crashing out reading the reviews. It's like, well, it's not a film about Mexico City. It's an opera that's set in Mexico City. And in the markets in my opera in Mexico City, they have photocopiers. It's like, this is not why we hate the film.
No.
This is not why.
No, it wasn't the magical realism. It was all of the other stuff that was real bad.
Man, that's great. Do we know what kind of standing ovation it got at Cannes? That's something we've always been obsessed with.
Probably like a 12-minute standing ovation.
So that's pretty bad.
Let's have a look, actually.
By Cannes standards, that's pretty low.
Perez standing...
It definitely got a standing
ovation. Cannes...
It feels like everything gets like a minimum 8 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the benchmark. 9
minutes.
Okay, that is really low. I think that's really low by what you tend to see from Cannes.
Yeah. I'm reading a Variety article and it says biggest Cannes standing ovation so far at 9 minutes. I don't know if it's so far for this year or last year's festival. Yeah. Biggest standing ovation of this year's Cannes festival so far.
I've found the longest ever, apparently, reported. The longest ever standing O at Cannes was 22 minutes for Pan's Labyrinth.
Wow.
Okay.
I just can't imagine what that's like. I just can't imagine being in a room
22 minutes.
like an episode of The Simpsons length of just other people around you. Just
imagine just being in a room looking at someone and just
even a film that I've
20 minutes.
loved more than anything else I've ever seen. I'm like, all right, it's time to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go home and get into bed.
It's a real like flip on that. Like, you know, I have some friends who are like film people who are like, no, I stay till the end of the credits. I want to see see the whole list, and I'm like, performative, shut up, like whatever. Look it up on IMDb. Fuck off. Like,
that was one of the best things about Tar, was that it opened with all the credits in reverse, and so the first thing that you saw was thank you to Capcom for the use of Monster Hunter. I'm like, I cannot wait to see how this factors into the film. I was like, I guess we'll just see someone like over their shoulder playing a Nintendo Switch or something, like in the back of a car.
Real Chekhov's Monster Hunter.
It's like a weird like spoiler for the end of the film that happens in the first like 2 seconds of the film, tells you what you're going to see at the very end.
It's so good.
It's awesome.
I did love that. And like, you still see it, like opening credits being the entire crew, like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's
settle
cool.
in, sets the tone. There's some good music going.
It's very I think you see it. I think Queer did it. Queer had like a pretty long opening titles. It's very like 70s style, so it almost feels like it's done more as like a stylistic throwback than of like we got to pay respect to everyone who worked on this.
I wonder as well, like, because we all kind of know that films are going to end up on a streaming platform at some point, and usually they just cut off once the actual visual ends of the film, they cut off the credits. Maybe they are just front loading credits now because they know that when this eventually ends up on a streaming platform, it's going to get cut.
They're combating the they're getting in front of the trailer for Sausage Party popping up over the over the gaffer and best boy.
Yeah.
You have 5 seconds to opt out of automatically watching Sausage Party after seeing Nickel Boys. Well, should we move on to the severed floor of this podcast?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
what
get
an
severed.
episode.
Yeah, episode 4, season 2. God damn it, we have to do this every fucking week. What was this episode called?
Woe's Hollow.
Yes.
I remember this one.
The only one I've been able to remember is the one that I watched on a plane because I had to like select it from a menu, not just like turn on the TV and, click play on next episode. But yeah,
this a lot of discourse come out of this episode. But this is entirely set. Not on the severed floor, but it is all the innies. We start with Irving coming to on the middle of a frozen lake. We're at a little what do they call it? An Ortbo. It's a team building exercise that's entirely set in some fucking Keir Egan National Park. And it's
so essentially a frozen wasteland. It's ice, it's snow, barren trees, and they haven't been told ahead of time that they're doing this. They just wake up and they're in the middle of this snowy forest.
Yeah, and they from like on a sort of the edge of a cliff, kind of parallel to where they are. There's a TV with a DVD player on it. And that's where they go over there and they watch a little tape telling them what's going on. A pre-filmed presentation about what is happening that's filmed by Milchek, even though he's also just there. At a certain point, he just shows up.
This
so
was
good.
such a bizarre episode in every way. We start with Irving, but then with the other innies on the MDR team meet up. They head to the top of the cliff. They watch this fucking weird briefing video. At this point, I was like, "What? Whose dream are we in?"
Yeah,
because we finished the last episode with Mark getting reintegrated and it being sort of unclear exactly where he was at. Like, it ends on his innie like waking up again in the testing floor.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear that it had worked, and this is like a classic shows like this. They'll hit you with something big at the end of an episode, and you're just frothing to see what happens next, and then the entire next episode takes place 10 years earlier, or you know, something like that. They throw like they kind of throw a little like mid-season curveball in there while you're waiting to see how something pans out, because that was everything about this episode was really strange, deliberately so. But yeah, that was the big thing for me, was thinking that we, at the very least, while all this is going on, we would see that Mark is, you know, reintegrated. He knows what's going on the outside, but it doesn't seem to have worked yet for his innie, or he doesn't seem to be aware that anything has taken place. That was kind of the strangest thing for me.
We get one glitch essentially for his character later on in the episode, which is, I think, like the only. It's not even necessarily a hint at that. It could just be, you know, some other thing, him thinking of Miss Casey. But basically they're told, like, you got to follow the guideline or the guides. You're following or recreating the trip that Keir and his secret twin brother took into the wilderness. You got to follow what turns out to be doubles of them pointing the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Horrifying doubles too.
Really strange. Ooh. And like, obviously they're confused and they're like, what the fuck's going on? Dylan's like, oh, there's a me one of them now. Like, but we don't really know what they are at all. And they basically, I messaged you about this episode, Tommy, and you were like, well, we spend the first half of the episode just fucking walking through the snow, and that's basically what happens.
Yeah. I was at the start, because you see like a double of Mark, and then you maybe see a double of Helly, and I was thinking, is this a thing for, like, you know, she's reintegrated, he's reintegrated, is this going to be a thing that's showing us, you know what I mean? Like, they've got, like, another form of them in there. Right. But then, no, we see doubles of all of them. Just talking about it now, maybe this could be the whole kind of weird, surreal sort of feeling that this has. Maybe it's something to do with, like, Mark's brain kind of glitching out as the reintegration has taken place, because, it all felt very, like... I don't know. I felt like not to jump ahead, but by the end of it, I was really into what was going on, like what happened at the end of the episode. But the first half I was a bit like, I wonder if this is going to all sort of be justified in context of the season as a whole, because it does. There is enough about it that's like, there's just this massive park where they can somehow have them be like get them out of the building and have like it doesn't quite track. I don't know.
Interesting. I feel like this kind of was tipped off for me that it was kind of going here, because there was a tweet that I saw go around where someone was bitching about the previous episode, being like, oh my God, this season is so slow. And then Ben Stiller, who directed, I think, this episode and is like the executive producer or whatever of the series, was like, it only gets slower. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's great intel to have. They should have run that over the credits of the previous episode.
Yeah. Coming up, less.
Yeah.
Less and less. I think stylistically it felt super different, honestly. It felt more like a folk horror film. There was silence, not a lot of dialogue for much of the first half. The kind of shots to like the frozen twigs and branches, the discovery of the dead seal, was it?
Yeah. Because you're right. I mean, for the most part, obviously the show is high concept, but it's sort of not. I mean, you have to suspend the disbelief of like, okay, there's a procedure you can have that allows this to happen. But then all the rest of it is like, they go onto this floor. You don't remember anything about being outside. When you're it is all fairly, once you get over that, once you just let yourself believe that, all the rest of it is quite naturalistic within that scope. And so now to have a thing where it's like, they've been able to get you to this, big, weird, snowy park, and there's a DVD player and a TV up on that, and there's little clones of you running around.
Right,
is so outside of the scope of kind of what we've seen so far.
I certainly, and like, so I watched this with my girlfriend, and she's a Severance super fan, and she's listening to this. Hi, Bridget. And I, at the end of this episode, I was like, I think this show is like jumping the shark. Like, because I loved the first season, but I loved it because of what you said, Tommy. Like, it was essentially, what if you could... Isn't it funny how, like, you know, we all hate going to work? What if you could forget work and go home and be fine? And lay it on top of this guy who is grieving his wife who died, and isn't this a destructive and toxic way to ignore that? And, like, that was kind of a lot of the show, and then, you know, you had the mysteries peppered in, and it was a little bit, you know, a little bit Twin Peaks of, like, well, there's, like, a real thing we're exploring here, like, real trauma and real, you know, like, the
crime at the heart of it too,
Right.
like crime in inverted commas, like, but you know what I mean, like a real. It's instead of where like what happened to Laura Palmer, it's like what happened to Miss Casey.
Totally, yeah. Or yes, and like Twin Peaks is like the parents grieving it, but then also like, oh, actually, there's like, this is all a metaphor for something really horrible, and then Severance was always like, this dude who is repressing all of this trauma, this is not going to end up well. And there was like, and there's a room with goats in it, and that's like cool and interesting, but vague. And this was like, I don't know. Maybe it's because there wasn't the context of the outies and like the real people and the real lives. Like it was all this like, the innies that are such like odd, strange little like non-people who have no context for the world. I don't know. Yeah, it felt very strange to me.
It does really seem like maybe next episode there's going to be, or at some point down the line, a bit more context for where this is. Like I've seen theories that this is just a simulation.
That was kind of my thought.
Yeah.
That because it feels so constructed. For example, just plopping a TV on top of a cliff, like
right.
And letting them kind of camp and do what they want. And like if they're not on the severed floor, like how have they gotten it to work if they are just in the outside world? Like couldn't they just have gone walking through the night and like gotten back to their houses?
Right.
Like
in my mind, I think this is all very constructed and also very controlled. It's like the line at the, I think it's the end of this last season, how do you convince a prisoner that they're free type of thing, is let them walk around and let them think that they're doing what they want. And so I think, to me, it's like this episode read to me as like, in effect, they're probably just in like another room of the Lumen building or something, or they flooded their brain with some chemical and they're all having this shared experience or whatever. But
which I would love if that's the case. That would make it make sense to me and feel less of a weird departure.
Because it didn't feel naturalistic to me at all. Even though they're in nature, I was like, oh, this definitely feels like some kind of construction and not like a real thing. And also, I don't know, because it was so stylistically strange, I was like, they're not trying to depict this as natural. They're not trying to depict this as, they're trying to depict this, and I think the folk horror elements of it as like, the outside world is full of things that you should be afraid of and stuff that doesn't make sense. Like the dead seal in the middle of a thing.
Yeah, they're like, should we eat it?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, because the only time they ever see stuff like that is like at these weird little parties where they're like, here's a selection of eggs.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting too, on like the featurette, the behind the scenes featurette afterwards. I forget his name. The guy who plays Milchek, he's so good. But he was talking about how like Milchek tells them when they get to the waterfall, like, this is the tallest waterfall in the entire world. And he's like, because they know, like, because these people, to them it is like they'll never see another waterfall. So this is again like the sandbox opening up and getting wider and wider, like, and so I just feel like they just every week chuck new toys in the sandbox for these like little innies to play with.
Even like I saw a thing of someone saying, oh, the innies haven't slept before. Which is funny that none of them seem to be like, whoa, guys, how good was that? You just kind of zone, you turn off. That's awesome. They're like completely nonplussed by it. first half of the episode, they're just kind of walking around on this, hearing all this deep lore about the family, and then they get into we keep seeing is it, I can't remember if it's through flashback or is it a conversation that he has with someone, but Irving's clearly, he knows that this isn't Helly. He's convinced that
he's brought up the Night Gardener.
Yes.
A couple of times. That when they've been alone together, he's like, so this Night Gardener, did he have like a torch? Like, what?
Yeah. And so they're all sitting around and they get into basically a big argument, right? Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, they all turn on him. They think Irving's being a dick to Helly because he keeps harping on about the Night Gardener.
Yep.
And he accuses... Mark of being blinded by his feelings for Helly and not seeing that she is not really Helly anymore.
Oh yeah, what does he say? He says something funny like Gaga eyes, making Gaga eyes out of something. He uses some weird, not quite common phrasing, slightly off. Because they're joking around, and he's getting annoyed by that, and then they have this big argument, and then. Helly and Mark go back to the tent
for rooting,
and they get to rooting,
which is like, again,
speaking of innies and outies,
is that his first time ever? I guess, right?
I guess so.
Well,
yeah. And also, so this was the thing that has come up, and like, Bridget messaged me, 12 hours later, was like, technically, was that like rape? Like, because she was. Like, she tricked him into having sex with her.
He couldn't have informed consent.
Right, right. So it's like, whatever. And I was like, well, technically you can't have your brain cut in half and forget half the day. So I don't know what the rules are, but it feels like it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this is in the show Bible when they were putting the series. If this were to happen, this is what it would be.
Well, there was also that thing, I think it's mentioned in an early episode this season, that one of the other innies, an outie finds out that she's pregnant. And she's like, I don't have a... boyfriend or anything, and so there was like a court case against Lumen because this
I don't remember that.
It's like a very throwaway line in one of the news flashes on a TV screen in the outie world.
Yeah, right. Well, all of that happens because also at this point in the show, I mean, officially, it's pretty clearly signposted. I think they do. They want us to be on Irving's side and be like, he's correct. That's totally not Helly. Yeah. But in terms of what we're like, when that happens, we don't officially know that yet.
No.
So then, Irving he goes on this sort of, he kind of wanders off into the bush. He's, he's having all these weird visions. And then it's the next morning, and Dylan finds him, and then we have this confrontation where he finds Helly, and I loved this, him saying to her, you were really cruel last night, and Helly was never cruel.
Yes.
That being his dead giveaway was the way she was sort of getting stuck into him.
Yeah.
And he starts drowning her in an attempt to get... And big play that he's just seems to know that Milchek has the ability to just get her switched over. Really, really rolls the dice on that one. Not even confirmed that that's a thing that they have the ability to do. Yeah. But he does have the ability to do it. He gets on the walkie-talkie and says, change her over. And she kind of comes to. And he gets fired on the spot. Yeah. He's kind of... they're all talking to him, and Milchek's like, you are forbidden from here on out from communicating with any Severed employees.
He gets escorted out of the building.
Yep. And that's where we're at. So Helly doesn't know that any of this has gone on.
No.
She doesn't know that she's rooted Mark either.
Yeah. Yeah, so now there's this weird thing where she had feelings for him. So things were happening there, but now it's kind of progressed without her say-so or knowledge. Very weird.
And yeah, like I was saying, like Mark doesn't, like, he doesn't know that, well, he knows now, but he didn't know that was not her, essentially. It was a different person. He's gonna be pretty fucked up by that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Irving, like, because he has like, that was another thing. I was like, he couldn't sleep through the night in a fucking frozen wilderness and be fine. But he has a dream, and it incorporates all this weird shit that they've been talking about. The like the personification of woe, that like creepy, you know, old woman with like the strangly, like the ring looking ass woman. All of this shit is popping up, and I do like all of this stuff, and I like the sort of, I guess I'd always thought of it more as like window dressing, like interesting sort of aesthetic stuff. But it's very much come to the fore, especially in this episode. And like you're saying, Jen, maybe like the whole episode it's taking place in a simulation. It's taking place in a shared hallucination where, like, yeah, it should and can only be like imagery and symbolism and stuff like that. And that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's weird though, because the last 10 minutes, this very real stuff happens that has very real implications for them all and for the show.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm really interested to see in what sense the crossover is between this being a simulation or hallucination, but then I don't think that it was all just a dream or whatever. I do think the stuff that happened at the end with Helly being reactivated is real. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens from here.
It's such a fun. I love a show that zigs when you think it's gonna zag, even if like, I kind of get like your criticisms are like, that kind of feels like it's pushed it a bit to the limit of the conceit. But I'm also like, again, good. I'd rather this than just the same old, you know?
Yeah. Again, it really does feel like something where in the context of the series as a whole, if there's some kind of explanation for this, or, you know, once we know a little more about what's all going on. Because I was also thinking, like, is this something to do with, like, the thing that they're working on, that they need Mark for? The whole Cold Harbor thing? Like, maybe, like, you know, maybe Helena, you know, going in there and rooting him under false pretenses, like, maybe that's part of it? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's got something to do with this whole thing? I don't know. Yeah. It does seem like it could all feed into that, but... How do
we feel about the diary entries being a metaphor for jerking it?
Yeah, and then getting killed. I mean, bit extreme. Come on.
Yeah.
No, it's good stuff. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Almost as okay. This is my other This is my again conspiratorial vibe based off nothing. Are they reading the luminized version of Rickon's book?
Oh.
You know, like, there's just something in the writing that's a bit shit in the book again.
Yeah.
There's something about it that there's like the luminized language. Because I wrote down one of my favorite lines in this whole episode is when Milchek is giving them the pre-trip talk on the TV, and he says this phrase, and he's talking about the introduction of the brother as a character. And he goes, "Some of you may be quietly yearning to learn more." And it's like, because what he's saying is, probably wondering who the fuck is that, but like, it's all this thing is to like not activate the innies, and I'm like, I wonder if they've like created this story as a way, because it does sound like something from Rickon's book. That he like accidentally walked in on his brother jerking off, or his brother walked in, and the shame he would feel. And the woe he would. I don't know. That's just like, okay, this is absolutely not based on anything except vibes and my love of the character Rickon and his wonderful writing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely I don't think there's really anything that's in here, you know, by accident. So
right.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, brother.
But it does seem, and like, I don't, you know, not to spoil anything, but it does feel like Irving's gone for real.
Yeah. Yes. So I think he's definitely kicked out, but I mean, it's not like maybe we just see more of him on the outside now.
Yeah, because I guess maybe Mark's got to find them all on the outside.
Yeah.
Because now he's been violated by the outside Helena.
Yeah.
So it kind of does mean there has to be a showdown on the outside.
Yes.
Well, that's probably going to do us for this week. And maybe this is a conversation that we should have had off air. But White Lotus starts this week.
Yeah.
Are we going to get in here and chat White Lotus next week?
We gotta.
I guess so, yeah.
I think we'd better, right?
We're going to be watching it.
Especially
we're going to be fucking watching it.
You've got, like, insight from the set, Tommy. So we
Yeah.
gotta.
Yeah. I tried to stalk them all in Koh Samui.
Yeah. Listeners, stay tuned for some on-the-ground reporting from T. Dassilo.
From 8 months ago.
Yeah. But, that'll do it for this week. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Jen, for joining us once again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Ben. And hey, get on the Patreon. Patreon.com/filthycasuals podcast.
Pod.
I can never remember which is which. Filthy Casuals Pod on Patreon. We do bonus stuff every week. We're about to chat more movies and whatnot with one Genevieve Fricker. So we'll see you over there. But thanks, guys.
Bye.